Hey party people, it's Lycona Dacheechee and welcome to the Rough and Tumble Guide to the Dancing Plague EX, or better known as Titania EX. First, you see that our markers are kind of set up like this. The 1 and 2 markers right here are the important ones. They're pretty much important for a lot of the mechanics in the fight. Before the pull, you want to separate your party into 2 groups, basically a tank, healer, and 2 DPS. The groups will be used for the water puddles and the fire fist later in the fight. So pull her to the middle, and you want to keep her here for the remainder of the fight. The first mechanic you'll see here, you have to watch her animation. It's basically an AoE that appears around the boss. If you get hit with this AoE, you get a confuse and your character just runs around, which becomes more important later in the fight, but not so important now. For the next mechanic, she'll put down 8 water puddles in this formation. Each party member should take 1 puddle with the tanks and melee DPS close to her, the range and heals furthest away. There'll be little purple orbs that rotate around you. This is basically the timer for when you can leave the water circle. Don't leave the water circle until the timer is up. Next up is the Fire Fist, so you want to get in your groups that we formed in the beginning, and you want to stack one group in one water and then the other group in the opposite side of the water, as you see here. Now, you can choose to either be top or bottom or side to side on where your group or your party wants to stack. It really doesn't matter, just as long as both groups are on opposite sides of the boss. Right after there's a cleave, so just point it away from the party. Next up, your whole party will get Briar Tethers. If you remember the boss Halicarnassus from Omega Savage, this is the exact same tether mechanic. For our group, we had the DPS run north and the tanks and heals run south. Also make sure that you run to the corners of the arenas to break the tethers, as it becomes more important later in the fight. Just keep in mind, the closer you are together with your other party members when the Briar mechanic comes out, the easier it will be to break them. Next up, she'll do either one of 2 AoEs, an inside or an outside is what we call it. Just watch her animations and dodge accordingly. So at this point, she changes the arena stage to a forest, and now we're going to deal with the next mechanic, which is a tether mechanic. This tether mechanic will occur 6 times. We max melee it, so it's easy for the tank to pick up the first tether and take it over to 1. There will be an explosion around the person who has the tether, so make sure to stay away from them. When the tether explodes, switch it up with another party member who does not have the lightning debuff. To make this easy on ourselves, we separated it out into the role groups. The priority on who gets the tethers first are the tanks, then the healers, and then finally the ranged DPS. We decided to not use the melees for picking up the tethers, so they can have more DPS uptime on the boss. When switching tethers with your party members, what really helped me was after the AoE exploded, I would run back towards the edge of the arena. This helped me dodge the next person's AoE, as well as make it a bit easier for the next person to pick up the tether, so we could avoid having the tether snapshot between us. Next up, she'll do a tank buster that must be shared with the other tank. However, in this case, we just had one tank take all the AoEs, use their invuln, and call it a day. So next up, we're going to get the same mechanic we got earlier, which is the Briar Tethers. And the thing you want to notice is that in the corners here, there are 2 AoEs that sort of grow to each other, and you want to break the tethers by running to the corners that do not have these AoEs. Once your tether breaks, run back towards the center, but don't go too far. You'll see the growth spawning through the middle. For melees, it's okay to use your gap closers here to reach the boss. The timing's pretty quick though, so if you don't, you're going to get stunned and then you're going to lose DPS. So try to gap close really quickly. Next up is the tank cleave. Just make sure you point that away from the party. So this next mechanic is the Shiva mechanic. What you want to do is run to this little corner right here. As soon as you see the inside circle disappear, run back to the center. Once you run back to the center, a lot of AoEs are going to appear on people. There's not really a whole lot you can do, so just spread out and adjust accordingly. Right after that, it's either going to be an inside or outside dodge mechanic, and now we're ready for the ad phase. 3 ads will spawn. The DPS will want to hit Mustard Seed, which always spawns at east, and if you don't kill him fast enough, he has a soft enrage that will wipe the party. The other 2 ads that spawn at north and west, each tank takes 1 and tank them where they spawn. Don't worry about Mustard Seed because he doesn't move. After Mustard Seed is down, you want to attack Puck, which is the north ad. During this whole ad phase, you're going to have AoEs that spawn on the ground. Just dodge them. It's pretty normal. When Puck eventually dies, DPS the final ad, and now you're in the second ad phase. Now, the order that you want to DPS these ads down is in the same order as the first ad phase. So start at the east, move to north, and then finally take down the ad at west. All throughout this phase, there's going to be more AoEs, and they're bigger, badder, and more epic, so dodge accordingly. After the initial AoEs, there's going to be a stack mechanic, so just stack this mechanic on 2. The next mechanic is a series of mechanics that you've seen before, but are used in a pretty unique combination. So first, let's go over each one in detail and how do we react to them. First, there'll be a blue circle in the middle of the arena, which is a knockback circle. It's very similar to Sephiroth EX, as well as Shinru's tail slap right before you run up his tail. The next thing to look for are these vines. Now, they can either appear horizontally or vertically on the stage, but they always appear in a line going through the middle of the arena. And what you want to look for is the directions of the tentacles, because the way that they are facing is the way that they're going to slap. So what you want to do is you want to position your character on the edge of the blue circle and get knocked back to the safe corner where the tentacles are not slapping you. Also at the same time, your whole party will get the Briar tether mechanics. Just like in the first phase, how the tanks and heals ran to one corner and the DPS ran to the other corner, you want to get knocked back into your respective corner. Once your character gets knocked back, the Briars will automatically break. Immediately after the knockback, there are going to be some massive AoEs. Don't panic, break the tethers first, and then dodge the AoE. Next, 2 party members will get the giant AoEs, and 1 party member will get the stack mechanic. You want to stack this on 1. By this time, the whole ad phase should be complete, and you're ready to go into the final phase. So at this point, you've seen all the mechanics of the fight, but there are still going to be some sneaky combinations. The first thing that she'll do is cast both the water circles on the ground. She's also going to cast the in or out mechanic, so you have to wait for the in-out mechanic to happen. It's either going to be a stack party in or dodge outward, and then go to your waters. If you go to your waters too soon, you will get hit with the confusion debuff, and your character will just run all over the place, and then you won't be able to stack in the waters. So the Fire Fist will come out again, take your groups and stack them in opposite waters, just like at the beginning. Now at this point we're going to get the AoE grow mechanic. The 2 AoEs that we saw in the corners from last time will spawn on the edges of the arena this time. And what happens is that if your party is in the water spots and the grow mechanic appears behind you, you're going to have to rotate to the other water spots, as you can see here. If the growth mechanics appear in the opposite spots that are not behind the party, then you don't have to move. The next mechanic is the in or out AoE, so dodge accordingly. And if you've made it this far in the fight, the rest of the fight is exactly like the first phase. There will be party-wide damage that you have to heal through. The tank buster that needs to be shared will come out and just share accordingly. The Shiva mechanic is next, so it's exactly like the first phase. Then she'll bring out the tether mechanic, where each one of your party members has to take the tether separately. And roughly when you reach that point, it should be a clear, and congratulations! All in all, I was with this pug group. They were really cool, got some sick loots. It took us about 45 minutes to kind of go from not having any knowledge at all to clearing. So it's pretty much a fun fight, and I'm glad you guys are with me on this. If you think that there are some cool tips or tricks, leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe to this channel and for more guides. And until next time, keep on adventuring.